Think digital billboards are just oversized TVs stuck on loop? Guess again. This episode of the ADOTAT Show zips through the electrifying avenues of tomorrow's ads, where billboards aren't just seen. They're interactive participants in your daily hustle, whispering your name, and maybe even your latte preference. We've roped in Barry Frey, the wizard behind the curtain of digital signage, alongside a crew of visionary CEOs that are diving deep into transforming urban vistas into a personal retail haven. So hold on to your convertible and know more than you did yesterday.
Welcome to the ADOTAT Show, where marketing, media, and ad tech merge. Stay tuned as your host, Paysac Latin, navigates you through the evolving landscape of marketing trends and advertising innovations.
Hey folks, welcome to today's Electrifying Show. We are diving deep into the wild world of digital out-of-home industry and growth, and trust me, it's not your grandma's billboard game anymore. We've roped in Barry Frey from the DPAA, the guru of outdoor ads, to give us the lowdown. Barry's here to unpack the latest in billboards. Start seeing ads in places you never expected. Barry, you ready to get started?
Paysac, good to see you. We've got some great DPAA CEOs from around the country here. And Sarah, I think from London, you're in New York for the moment. Is that true?
I am in New York, becoming a native.
Great. Well, we love having you here. And we've got a couple of guys from Texas, and we got Sean from New York, and Paysac from the lovely place in Arizona. So we are, for those who don't know, I'm Barry Frey, and we run the Global Out-of-Home Trade Organization. And our mission is dedicated to the growth of the industry, the innovation of the industry, and the digitization of the industry. So we have over 200 member companies. We are located in every continent, and we focus on the digitization, which is really, now that we have video outside the home, now that we're focused on retail media, QR codes, very powerful, augmented reality, VR, 3D, anamorphic, and of course, using the tools of the digital world in terms of programmatic is very key and very great in targeting and moving digital and video monies to this medium. We've got great popularity with the ability to serve addressable advertising. You can't fault the great quality of the boards and the screens because it's an incredibly believable medium. In this world of brand safety issues, if you're not telling the truth in public, you get tomatoes thrown at it. And of course, you can't skip the commercials. And the last kind of overview I'd say is that, we live in the world of retail media. It's so incredibly powerful. If you think about Paysac, retail media is a $120 billion retail media business. But that's before you get in store. And look at the opportunities to be on the path to purchase, in the point of purchase, where still 85% of actual purchases take place in real life, in real store. So we're in a very exciting time. And I think you want to introduce ours here from DPAA. And thanks for having us, Paysac.
Well, first of all, we have Sean McCaffrey, the big boss at GSTV. He's in the mix. After melding minds and media with Verifone, Sean's rewriting the rulebook on gas pump entertainment. Yeah, you heard that right. Your next fill-up might come with a side of high-octane advertising. And we have Sarah Parks from Talon Outdoor. She's turning heads and breaking molds. She's all about delivering results that matter and making sure your ads don't just blend into the background noise. And don't forget Mark Kidd. He's the captain at Captivate, who's turned elevator rides into must-watch TV. Under his watch, those moments between floors are getting a major upgrade. And rounding out our squad is Blake Sabatinelli from Atmosphere, the king of streaming TV for businesses. He's making waiting rooms and lobbies the new prime time. First of all, as I've noticed, the DOOH advertising sector has been on a sharp upward trajectory. I believe it did about $30 billion in 2024, and it's estimated to do about $32 in 2024. 2023, it did about 30, and it's expected to be about 32 in 2024, demonstrating the increase of shift towards digital and outdoor advertising spaces. Considering this explosive growth, I'm going to ask the panel, what do you see push the boundaries even further? Let's start with Barry.
Yeah, sure. So the general notion that this whole industry is going digital and going fast. So what does that mean in terms of innovation? Of course, video commercials, but not only that, but video content. And all of these members here have been very good at putting actual real content on their screens. And our studies have shown that if you have content in addition to ads, people will engage, they'll find value, and then advertising will spend. So certainly the power of video. And then, as I mentioned earlier, to some degree, the power of addressable advertising, dynamic ad serving, and programmatic really makes this medium a full funnel medium where, in a sense, out of home started out years ago as a top of funnel element. Now we're going up and down, actually proving that people are going to websites, going to stores, and buying product. And the last thing I'll say, because there's a lot of innovation, is also now we're seeing some great use of QR codes. We are actually connecting in a very direct, also lower funnel fashion. And then, of course, I love a lot of the great 3D that's coming out.
The answer to this question often of what's next is technology led. Here's glasses, here's goggles, here's a new screen, here's a new high definition. I think along the lines of there are no overnight successes, I think the big pivot we see happening in real time is a strategic shift around digital out of home. So, which is to say, for a decade, signs have become screens, but the use case was, hey, we can run morning creative, evening creative, we can update sports scores, that sort of thing. I think in the same way the digital ecosystem has eaten television and has eaten audio and eaten the print and newspaper business, it's now coming to digital out of home, which is audience-led, contextually driven, campaign measurement, connection to real business outcomes, conversations around incrementality, conversations around attention. And there's real scale in the space now, or Blake's platform or Mark's or plenty of others. It gives strategists and buyers like Sarah and her teams a way to think about audience in the digital out of home space in the same way you think about it in CTV and gaming, in audio and so on, instead of just this particular location I want to buy. There's nothing wrong with location. That's a data signal. Sunset Boulevard is littered with movie and film and music billboards for a reason. But that's not the way to really think about digital out of home in the same way you wouldn't think about any sort of classic digital advertising. You know, the homepage takeover went away for a reason because audience have scaled across the open web. I think there's a strategic shift underway where the digital strategists and digitally led investment and brand leaders at agencies and brands are now thinking about how does that audience skill set apply to everything out there and not just something on the mobile phone or the desktop screen.
And I think, Sean, adding AI to that. So, you can define a baseline of what good is in out of home based on measurement, behavior, outcomes, all of those things. But once you've defined good, you can use AI capabilities to allow players to automate that and automate the creation of plans, which, it's simple to do when you've got one or two dimensions. But, when you've got multiple, AI can do that at speed. And I think, that then can deliver much better outcomes for our clients.
I would say from Captivate's perspective, we may be the oldest digital out-of-home firm around. We helped set up what is now the DPAA, and Barry and I came into the industry about the same time, about 10 years ago. And what I found with Captivate, my first reaction was I'm not sure why anyone would be enthralled to be in an elevator with an elevator screen. But when I really began to understand the audience, and more importantly, it's really the content that drives the engagement. And I think the thing that makes digital out of home unique is we have this really compelling content at ESPN, because we had a number of shows on the Outdoor Channel. And ESPN Outdoor Channel was in 36 million homes. Today, ESPN's in like 70, on its way to 50. You've got the Outdoor Channel somewhere around 15. That's not unique. That's happened to everybody, right? And you've got all these millennials who are now consuming their content on their cell phones, on their iPads. So the size of our screens are relative to the location in which the content is delivered. And we find in our case, we've got a curated content team of over 10 people. We have 150 content sources. So we work really hard to make sure we're delivering the right content at the right time in the right environment that will create that engagement. we track our group with a panel where we talk with them every single month on what they like and what they don't. And one of the most fun things to see is we have this contest. If you take your picture, submit it, we'll put it on the elevator screen, and you'd be stunned at the number of creative ways in which people engage with the screens in a work environment. And the beautiful thing about the way digital out-of-home is built today is you can connect with us in the residential. When you go to the office, you can stop by Sean's stations and locations, get your car filled up when you're out buying things on a daily basis. You can work with Blake in bar environments, in restaurant environments, in other places, and it's all organic. I was in Las Vegas for an event, and I saw Blake's, screen right in the middle of the hotel I was in with all the other networks up there. So to say that digital out of home is not as impactful as television, that's just not true. Digital out of home is driving the discussion in many, many places, and brands are beginning to understand and recognize that.
And I mean, Mark, it is impactful. We were behind creating the creative for Willy Wonka, and that ran in 7 different markets. The activation in Times Square, the last count had been shared by 30 million, 30 million viewers. So that is, it's running in real time. But that was, say, one video, and that is just by some random person on the street. So that will just continue to run and run and run.
It's incredibly powerful when you think about what Mark and Blake also said about the decline of television as a vehicle for advertising. Just 2 weeks ago, the CEO of Coca-Cola said that television has always been our mainstay go-to medium, and that will no longer occur. Now it's digital. And we have the video of television, and we have the digital properties in all of our member screens and digital out of home. And then the other thing I just want to mention is that, Mark and all 3 of you had mentioned context. As cookies get going away and deprecated, the value of context rises so far up the marketing hill. This is what it's about now, and no one offers better context in this medium.
What is the context usually? Location?
It could be location, it could be audience, it could be the physicality of what's around the location, it could be people's mindset of where they are when they're there, and and then that with addressable advertising, as we mentioned, by time, by temperature, by the news items, really drives also powerful connection to the brand message up and down the funnel.
What is the engagement rates?
I was going to say that the other thing is purchase intent. Almost every person in front of the digital out of home screen is there with an intent to buy something. If you're at the gas station screens, you're buying gas, you're going to run in, you're going to get something at the C-store that's connected to it. If you're in a location where Blake screens are located, you're buying food or you're buying drink. In our case, we reach working business professionals where they live and where they work. These are C-suite. These are decision makers that are buying business decisions and making decisions of what their companies are spending their money and investing in. And then they go back to their desk where they've got high-speed internet connections and they can buy during the daytime. If you look at the numbers, there's more purchases made between 9 and 5 than between 5 and 9 in the evenings. So that environment purchase to be able to deliver the right message. And for most of us, we're on the path to someone going to someplace to make that happen. So I think that's really, really significant. And people are beginning to understand that impact and power.
We had a conversation.
What are some campaigns that truly broke the mold in terms of consumer engagement and recall that you can think of? Besides the Willy Wonka campaign, which I remember too.
Yeah, I think we'd all be remiss if you talk about contextual elements, events that surround something. It's a contextual element as well. Just to look at what Pepsi did this year in Las Vegas. They didn't advertise during the Super Bowl. They advertised in Las Vegas where people were coming and coalescing around an event. And they did it in a huge way. Everything from the Sphere to traditional outdoor to screens like ours to the gas station pumps to the elevators. Everyone was surrounded by this giant brand who has traditionally relied on a singular event in the month of February to drive their message and brand recall. They're now using out of home in a way to come and drive that same message, drive their purpose forward, get that brand push that they're going to have for the next 6 months out. And they did it in a totally untraditional way that, by the way, probably didn't cost $7 million every 30 seconds. So, I mean, there's benefits and new ways and context that are just such powerful tools that exist in this space.
Has the sphere changed the conversation?
It's brought a lot of excitement to the space. We actually had a trip to CES, and we had a private event at the Sphere for our DPAA members during CES, and everybody's talking about it. In fact, what Blake said about Pepsi, Todd, the CMO of Pepsi, spoke at our summit last year, and he met Blake and Sean and Mark and Sarah, and he really engaged with the power of this medium. And I'd like to think, and we're still very close and in touch, I'd like to think that him engaging with our membership, we had 1,000 people at the summit, which PaySoc, please join us at this year, that Pepsi got really smart on the power of digital out of home.
Is the Sphere the next? I'm sorry. Is this the next New York Times when it comes to New York Times, Times Square when it comes to visibility? You think?
Well, that's what I want to follow. But I mean, I think what you have is you have a Sphere, you have a Times Square, you have a Sunset Boulevard, but they're not everywhere. They're in certain places at certain times that are significant. So the Sphere will always be something that's a focal point when there's an F1 race out there, when there's a Super Bowl, a World Series, all those types of things. For sure, it will be part of that. Same thing with Times Square. Anytime you go there, there's a big event. The same thing in LA. I mean, when the Stones launched their new album, they used a tour down Sunset Strip with billboards showing you, moments of time, which kind of capture that. But where digital at home really works is it works in people's everyday lives. And it's that interaction and it's that proximity to purchase that makes it work. And because of that content, you can do something at the Sphere, and then you can take it across the United States and across North America with companies like ours and theirs. And that's why I think this is really, it can change the discussion.
I think the Sphere is one singular large format digital billboard.
That's right.
We have to hit people in more places than just the Sphere. So does it engage people? Can you create a similar moment to what you can do with Wonka and Times Square? Absolutely. But the reality is, if you actually want to drive impact results and drive people down the funnel, you're going to have to do a lot more than a Sphere in Times Square. You're going to have to be where people are with credit card in hand, ready to spend money.
Yeah, the Sphere, couldn't agree more, Blake. The Sphere and Times Square 3D anamorphic, that's a sponsored content buy. It's an integrated content buy. It's not a digital buy in the audience sense of the word. In other words, the KPIs for that Sphere are how many times it's shared on social media and how many times it's duetted and retweeted and so on. It's not how many eyeballs saw it in Las Vegas, which is awesome. It's amazing, but to me it's a sponsored content or a content integration buy. To Mark's point about everyday life, we were having a conversation with the executive creative director at an agency who talked about mindset. And when we were talking about contextual advertising these days, and they were using the term mindset, meaning that's where the media selection really meets the actual creative. You're thinking about a person's mindset, leaned back on the sofa in the living room watching CTV versus running through an airport to catch your flight while you're scrolling through your phone or whatever the case is. So for us, for GSTV, I'll pick on financial services as a category that we've seen a lot of change over the last 5 years. The out-of-home use case in the classic sense of strategy would be fuel rewards. Every so often, a credit card company has a fuel rewards promotion, so they call us. We have 115 million drivers every month. Fuel rewards makes a lot of sense. Today, on any given month, we probably have a dozen financial services partners on the platform because they think about the context of the consumer and the consumer mindset. It's an ad experience where, yes, you're paying for something, but it's also a day where your behavior is very different. It's 4 or 5x more shopping at Walmart, at Kroger, at CVS, you name it, to say nothing of the C-store. And you're standing next to an expensive purchase, your vehicle, you're thinking about spring break for your kids, you're thinking about your tuition bill, you're thinking about your grocery bill. So from a mindset standpoint, it's a place you have permission to be there to talk to a consumer about their relationship with their money. And most financial services marketing is the same thing. It's some conversation about your relationship with your money. We can keep it safer, we can grow it faster, et cetera, et cetera. So we've really seen financial services marketers, for example, understand how to think about the digital out-of-home context, as it's a lot less so about where the screen is and much more so about who the audience is, their mindset at that moment, and then how to think about using it as one more connection point alongside CTV, alongside digital, et cetera, to find reach, to find frequency, and all the things that go into making the media math work.
What are some unique integrations that you've seen with CTV?
One of y'all want to go first, or I can hop in?
Yeah, Blake.
Sure. I'm going to go out and make a bold statement because I say this pretty frequently. We are CTV. We operate
Right.
CTV devices, and we run content via television. By every stretch of the definition, we are a connected TV platform. And in many instances, if you really start stepping back and looking, there's other members that are doing the same exact thing. Most of us have found trapped value in locations that didn't necessarily have addressability, and we've built businesses on that, and that's fantastic. So what we're doing is not just integrating with connected TV, we're taking those audiences and expanding them to the places that they're going. So that can be everything from Coke and Pepsi campaigns that you can see running everywhere right now to JP Morgan and GM and others. Everyone's leveraging this tool set because they know they have to reach incremental eyeballs and increase frequency on a regular basis, and they need to find a way to do it in a digital addressable capacity. So it's not just singular integrations, in my view. It's a whole marketplace of people, of buyers and strategists coming and saying, we need to make sure that we're taking this campaign outside of the living room. Because let's be realistic about what's happening inside the living room. I'm watching this if there's a commercial on. And that's if I'm watching a platform that has commercials on it, because every other subscription service I have in my home besides YouTube TV, I pay for the ads-free version because I just can't tolerate having a disruption in my life. And it's actually not me, it's my children. My kids can't stand ads, even though they built the house, But marketers have to go and think about things differently. So this connected TV integrations, they have to find the connected TV platforms that exist out of home. That's what we're all doing here.
I want to follow up on that because I think the other thing that has happened, at least in my tenure at Captivate, is we went from 6 generations of screens with all different ways to deliver it. And today we deliver everything through the cloud. We deliver to our screens the exact same way you deliver to a cell phone, to an iPad, any of those types of things. And with that, all of us have aligned with attribution and measurement. We've got different ways to show the impact. We can use a power score. We can use a place to show what's happening. We can turn around and use Contrava. We can use QR codes. There's all types of data that all of us have brought to really professionalize the way the digital out-of-home is seen. It's just another vehicle to be with the customer journey. And you can count on it with companies like members of the DPAA that they're doing what they're supposed to do to be able to make sure the tech stack works. You're available programmatically. You can interact with DSPs and SSPs. There's all types of ways you can bias. And what's really fascinating is sometimes when you open a new location or a new site, all of a sudden people start advertising and you see discovery and stuff that you're like, where did that come from? It didn't come from my direct team. So it is people understanding that audiences are in these locations. They are valuable and brands want to reach them.
Sarah?
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think it's just CTV. And out of home now is part of omnichannel ecosystem. We are now starting to talk that same language. So online, online talking numbers. We have been talking in panels. Now we are at that omni-channel table, and we are starting to bear fruit from the online dollars, the CTV dollars. So it's not just that one vertical. Out of home is now being planned as part of an omni-channel buy.
I was going to ask why hasn't happened until now? I think you can buy through the trade desk through I think AdQuick or something, or a similar company, but it's not that available.
No, and I think I think we have to hold a camera up to ourselves as an industry. We have made it more difficult to buy as an omni-channel. We haven't talked the same languages as the online channels. We are now talking, audiences at CPM in real term. So that makes it, when you're speaking the same language, you are removing those barriers. And I think, we are now starting to get out of our own way, same language that those buyers want us to.
Yeah, but guys, I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty sure that Sean and Blake, I know our business, we're in 4 to 5 different SSPs connected to 15, 16 DSPs. There's nobody that can't reach us if they want to reach us. That's something I want to make sure that the people understand. We are easy to be reached if you're going through a DSP, and most of us have got audience data that we're sharing with the DSP, or the DSP has audience data about location and what's going on, so that if you're a brand, you can click that box. Because I can assure you that some of the locations we turned on during the pandemic and didn't tell anybody about it, people found it. And they didn't find it from the direct team. They found it through the DSPs and the audience tools tools that they were using to discover either household income, demographics, a location, all the things that makes digital out of home so special. Yeah. So I mean, in many regards, we refer to ourselves as digital out of home, but we're really outdoor CTV or outdoor television, where people are living their lives. We're bringing these environments with entertaining, engaging content and ways for them to interact.
I think we need to, in the out-of-home industry broadly, everyone's been scared of the word programmatic because programmatic, for some reason, has become some demon, especially in some of the more legacy companies who are not thinking about finding incremental revenue. Reality is programmatic is a modality of purchase. Programmatic is not some other revenue stream. Programmatic is where the agencies are already at. If we want to make money, you must run that way. Because the reality is anyone who's spending any kind of digital or TV dollars today is going to be purchasing in many instances via programmatic guaranteed or PMP deals. It's a modality of purchase. It's not us saying let's cheapen the inventory. It's saying, hey, you can connect via this pipe. You can manage your campaign as effectively as possible. You can segment your audience as you deem fit. It's us providing service and opportunity for agencies, not lessening the value of the business. And I think our industry needs to understand that and align around that.
I think I think we even do better as an industry, Blake. If you think about the origins of programmatic, it was cheap long tail inventory. It was nefarious or other websites. But think about our business and think about the businesses here on this podcast. You can't just open up another website quite easily, and you could have anything on it, and that could provide inventory and impressions. But for Blake, you've got to talk to a retail. You've got to talk to a restaurant. You've got to talk to a full service bar. Sean has to have negotiations with gas stations and cities and municipalities. And Mark has got to work with real estate and buildings. Unlike the programmatic online world where you just open up a website and you could flood it with inventory, this is a very procured medium, and you can't just invent a new one that pops up at one time. So, and by the way, I just want to also mention on the omni-channel video view, we did call our summit this year a portmanteau. It was Omni Video, which is a portmanteau of omni-channel and video. So, but keep in mind, our programmatic is much better.
Yeah, to Mark's point,
there's no clickbait in any of our platforms. Right. And none of us are designed to trap you and do that. And then when you leave us, send you some other little video on top of that. These are real, meaningful, content-driven platforms that create engagement. I'm sorry, Sean, go ahead.
No, it's a great point. I mean, to Mark's point, I mean, the simple way for marketers or agencies to think about it is the addressability in digital out-of-home today is like any other digital channel out there. The only difference perhaps is our screens don't have a buy it now button like the true lowest funnel, Instagram ad. But Mark, to your point, I mean, the digital out-of-home platforms are additive, are useful additions to places and spaces where there's curated content, commercially supported, no different than any other platform in the digital space out there, CTV, podcasting, you name it. And advertisers have started to understand that scale. I think particularly in North America, the use case for classic out of home is location led. We've been talking about it, right? Times Square, Sunset Boulevard, et cetera. It hasn't been audience led like the UK and Asia and some other markets. That's shifting in digital out of home. I tend to say it as, the first 10 years of digital out of home is lowercase d. It's a sign became a screen. The current moment in time, we're morphing into capital D, digital, in the sense of audience targeting, measurement, attribution, business outcomes. We're having conversations around incremental reach. We're having conversations around attention, things that matter to major media investors about their whole strategy, but particularly their video strategy. Because obviously the open secret is that decline in linear reach can't all be replaced by CTV. People still need audiences. If you sell toothpaste or soda or cars or credit cards, you still need a lot of people. And the more and more you segment on the digital side of things, you're missing more and more prospects and opportunities, to Mark's earlier point. So thinking about these businesses like mine, Mark's, Blake's, et cetera, less as where is the screen and more so what do I know about the audience and how can I compare that audience to any other media publisher or platform out there, I think is the strategic pivot that's really accelerating and underway for digital out of home.
I think that's true.
So data, real-time analytics is the lifeblood of programmatic, obviously. How has this reshaped the way that digital campaigns were executed in the last few years?
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to add on the piece around measurement, and out of home now has definitely moved from sort of top of the funnel metrics to bottom funnel. With our clients, we put together long-term measurement and research campaigns. This isn't about just proving a campaign's brand. This is about the effectiveness of the entire advertising campaign throughout, if it's a long-term hold throughout that year. So it starts with creative testing, making sure that we've got the right creative to drive the right results. And then we will measure actually footfall into store. So, we can measure how many coffees that we are selling or sort of pushing people to buy. And we do that against our competitive set as well. So yes, you have got the brand uplift, the awareness, but we are now also able to track actual, sales of product based on seeing an out-of-home ad.
Someone else share success stories on positive ROAS?
Well, I mean, in our case, we know all of the companies and the job titles and the type of sectors that are in our footprint, right? And so we have brands that will come to us and say, hey, we're trying to reach this sector or this job title. If you're a brand trying to reach particular companies, they'll give us a list of companies. We'll match them with the brands and companies in our footprints, and then they'll be able to target those fields and make sure that it's very efficient. I think the other thing you see is with all of us we're 100% viewable, we're 100% location accurate, and we're 100% ad completion. So you don't have to worry about those types of things. And we've all professionalized the industry under Barry's leadership with the tools that are necessary to match up against other forms of media. So we see real success in being able to do what we call account-based marketing, to be able to match that with the brand's needs. And we see significant companies, taking advantage of that. We got over 50 businesses in our footprint. When you take the households that are sitting in there and you take the households that we have in the residential network, we're well over 4 million homes. You look at Blake's household, you look at Sean's household. If you're trying to reach zip codes +4, we can start to tell you where those zip code +4 are inside of our footprint. And instead of putting something in a mailbox that you just randomly send, you can really target the location and proximity of those locations with digital out of home to be able to deliver a more impactful ad experience for the consumer.
We do a lot of work with CPG, for example, as you might assume. And so we've commercialized partnerships with the major CPG category measurement firms that every major brand works with, in addition to doing their own, obviously, multi-touch attribution or media mix modeling. And we probably have 60 measurement studies we've done in the last 2 years alone, just in that category. And to the point that we started to see mature metrics for trademark, big scale brands where we might see 1%, 2%, 3% lift, which are huge numbers for the big mature trademark CPG brands. We might see 7, 8, 9, 10% lift or even more for a new product SKU or a new product launch. And we do mid-campaign testing to understand the build. And several of our partners, we work with the marketing sciences and data sciences team at the advertiser, same at the agency, et cetera, just again, to take advantage of natural consumer behavior. Our consumer is 20 feet away from an opportunity to purchase the individual consumption products, which are generally higher margin for CPG companies. But natural behavior is in the next 2 hours, they're going to go to a grocery store, they're going to go to a big box retailer, et cetera, et cetera. So we are able to capture the contribution of GSTV relative to the fuel and convenience channel and those others as one more data point for them to put in their overall spectrum of things, right? The Super Bowl, as we talked about earlier, for a brand like Pepsi, sure, there's a lot of math that ties back to what it does for the brands, but it's not specifically a buy it now button like an Amazon cart or a Walmart cart might be. And so, we hear if we're still using the funnel analogy, we have a lot of marketers tell us, you can measure the whole funnel today. You just measure parts of it differently, right? The intro versus the call to action and purchase. So CPG is a real bright spot for us. Automotive is another one where obviously, our audience is driving. But people look at the service side of their business, different from sales event, different from brand launches and model launches and things like that. So we measure more upper funnel metrics like favorability and recall, down to much lower funnel things like have we driven someone to a website to configure a car or that sort of thing. And we're obviously never taking credit for the entirety of the sale in the store or the entirety of the car purchase. But for all of our networks, there's often a duality. You can do some call to action things, immediate consumption, buy it now. If you're certainly in a bar or restaurant, or you're about to go out for lunch in Midtown Manhattan, on Mark's network, since this is daily or weekly viewing. But you can also do the longer term stuff. You've got permission with the sort of episodic content nature of these networks to tell somebody a story over time when it's a higher consideration purchase, like a car or a vacation or credit card or you name it. So we place a big emphasis on not just campaign delivery, which programmatic shows you where the ads ran, but actual campaign effectiveness. Did we do something, sell something, add value? And I know the other platforms on this call do as well. And then Sarah's team over at the agency, this is a huge part of their value proposition to marketers, that it's not just about what locations are you buying, but how is it contributing to real growth of the business.
Yeah, I couldn't say, that was interesting swoosh. I couldn't say what Mark and Shan said any better.
You heard that too.
I love it.
It was my cue.
I have a question. I have a quick
I said
question.
a Bruckheimer film all of a sudden.
I couldn't say what these.
It was supposed to be in my ear only, and I forgot to switch it off. So.
Great.
I was
transition.
That's why I was working on the soundboard, and it made it live accidentally. So no, I had a question about Cooler Screens, which was like a company I've been following for a long time. I thought they were, speaking of CPG, I thought they were really innovative, but now they're in a lawsuit with Walgreens. What do you guys think of that?
I don't think we want to comment on that.
It was really fascinating tech. How about that?
Yes, great technology. They hired a lot of people from Google and from the digital world. And, I think what does make these folks on the call here successful is that they all have a multimedia background, understanding all media, and that is what has propelled digital out of home. Every one of the people on the calls has been on the buy side, the sell side, the TV side, the sports side, and others, and that is what makes success for our members.
I mean, that goes to my next question. What could the industry, the digital advertising, or what we call the traditional digital advertising industry online, what could they learn from you guys? Especially about, let's say, CTV and screens.
Brand safety, viewability. There's a long list. Intentionality of viewership. Are people actually watching the advertisement? Are the ads actually running? There's a ton that happens in that ecosystem that's so fresh and so new. I was in the CTV industry for quite some time. It's still the Wild West. Everyone's still figuring it out. The beauty of what a lot of, I know for us and for the gentleman on the call and even Sarah Talon, of what we're doing is we're building this from scratch to fit an ecosystem that's now evolving. Atmosphere didn't exist as a company 4 years ago. We built this company as this wave came forward. So we've been able to follow the best practices, ensure that we're doing everything right, that we're checking all the boxes, that we're hitting all the audits, that we're making sure people are getting exactly what they want to get, and they're getting content at the right time, right place, along with the advertising with it. And that evolution and that opportunity to grow with the industry allows you to pivot quickly. Look, a lot of the member companies that are on the DPAA are startups. We're a startup. I think Mark and Sean, y'all operate your companies as startups. Fast moving, fail fast, break things and move forward. As I try to clean up my own language in my head, and that's a beauty for us because we're building something all new instead of trying to take a legacy industry and pigeonhole it into a digital environment.
I think it goes back to what I said earlier, is that the experience from knowing what television does well, the context of radio, from understanding the digitization of the web, what does mobile advertising do? Most of our members have a good entrepreneurial sensibility of all media, and that is what has helped them succeed. And then also, I think it's a great time. I just got off a Zoom call with the CMO of a major marketing brand, and she was like, wow, I didn't realize all of this. Could we get more involved? And then the other part that I think is really interesting in this entrepreneurship is creativity. And Talon, through Grand Visual, has got a great creative mechanism, Sarah. And you folks have done just brilliant work that is pushing the envelope. And once again, to Blake's point, that doesn't necessarily come out of a fully old functioning type business. It comes out of entrepreneurship and innovation and creativity. So, Sarah, I don't know if you wanted to speak about some of the leadership that you folks have provided in the creative area.
Yeah, and I mean, it also sort of tied into the comment around the sphere. That is, one medium, one screen that allows us to activate amazing creative executions. But it is just one screen. But how out of home and creative comes together is when we are able to go beyond that billboard. I know, as mentioned, Willy Wonka. We had a campaign in the UK for Budweiser, where it wasn't a digital, it was one out-of-home screen, traditional screen. We turned that into a stage around the Brits, who the Brits had no female artists on their shortlist. So we actually created a stage for young female artists, and we created a whole experience around that. We used digital out-of-home fans, so we actually streamed that content outside the Brits. And that was a moment. So, the right audience, the right message, the right moment. And out of the back of that, actually, one of the female artists got a $1 million recording contract because we had 3 recording managers there. So, the shareability of that campaign, I think it was on every news channel. It just ran and ran and ran. So, one out of just one billboard that you are then able to maximize. But it came back down to that creative idea.
Sarah, I'm so glad you mentioned some of the women's initiatives and leadership, and something, once again, I think to our entrepreneurial spirit, we're so focused on is we've built an amazing program called We Do PASOC. It's Women's Empowerment in Digital Out of Home. And we have inspirational speakers that speak about creating their brand, mentoring, menteeing. In fact, Mark was a star talking about mentoring and menteeing on one of them. The next one, we have a media owner in the UK who's actually played in the Deaf World Cup, and she's an executive, and she's overcome many challenges in her life. And we even had the women recently who built FabFitFun, all the boxes, and she played Oprah at the end of the webinar and gave everybody a box that showed up. So we work intensely on raising the level of people in our industry, and with diversity, with more women, with all of that comes more ideation, innovation, and growth. So once again, I think to tap onto what Blake said, this entrepreneurship in this industry has really fueled a lot of not only innovation, but business growth.
How important is creativity?
Sorry?
Oh, it's critical.
How important is creativity?
What we have, PASOC, is we have a whole new canvas for creatives to paint on. I mean, this is a brilliant canvas that didn't exist years ago.
I think it's mission. What are some integrations with social media that you guys have seen that have really caught your eye?
I mean, there are a number. I mean, a lot of the campaigns that I'd already mentioned around, whether that is Wonka, whether that was Budweiser.
Is this the metaverse that people were talking about 3 years ago also? Because I've noticed a lot of things with Snapchat. There's a lot of filters that are interactive that allow brands to interact with things in real life, such as billboards. Is this the new entryway into the metaverse also?
I'm not sure it's a new. Oh God, Mark, you were gonna.
Well, I mean, what we're looking at is we have iconic buildings that have been on the landscape of most of the major markets in the United States. You take the Empire State Building, or you take the Chrysler Building, for example. We're thinking about how virtual reality can play a role in that in the future. Right. And so we believe as that really becomes commercialized, it's affordable to people, that you will be able to do those types of things. Imagine looking up on the Chrysler Building and seeing King Kong hanging off the building like he did in the movie, or going to the Empire State Building on the tourist deck up there and being able to see Cary Grant and from that great moment where, from movies past. So it's those types of things that I think you have the possibility to create with this. But it is the creativity that exists, and these platforms and their locations can really help it, be brought alive.
And I think that
I think that's we should make that clear. That's augmented reality, not virtual reality. I think there's a difference, and that's very important.
But I think there is. I mean, we did a campaign for Disney parks many, many years ago.
I think that individual technologies often are misdirection. VR, AR, metaverse, etc., because the industry then stands up a whole big debate about is it the next big thing or not, and it becomes a debate about all or nothing. And the reality often is it's both or it's neither. And just follow the consumer, and the consumer will decide. If you look at the evolution in social, for example, and TikTok showed up at the new fronts, I think 3 or 4 years ago for the first time, alongside all the big digital platforms. And their tagline at the start and the end of their presentation was people check Twitter, people check Instagram, people check Facebook, people watch TikTok. And at the time, it wasn't stealing the video viewing hours, perhaps, that it is today. But kudos to the copywriter at TikTok that had that applause line, because it's perfect. Right away, it said very boldly that they're different. And here we are 4 years later, and TikTok, for example, is stealing video hours from somewhere. I think for our platforms, we're not stealing time from consumers' lives. We're in their lives already organically. Right. And there's opportunity to think about that as one more connection point. And Rashad's famous comment about the future doesn't fit in the containers of the past. A lot of these platforms are thinking about how to morph the past into the future. And CTV, for example, there's a bias amongst, I think, television producers and television companies that Hollywood production and long-form content is somehow differentiated for consumer time and attention. It doesn't seem to be anymore. Once I started getting TikToks from my mom, I knew the world had jumped the shark. We all only have so much time in the day. So by no means am I disparaging the quality of Hollywood production. But there's just so much more out there today that as a marketer, to try to break through all that clutter and find opportunity to connect, find real attention, direct it to a conversion of some sort. I think there's a lot of equivalency between the physical and digital worlds and how we live our lives as consumers, that for some reason, when we get into media strategy and marketing, we still stand up these barriers. Well, this is an in-home thing. This is not a home thing. This is a digital thing. This is not a home thing. And so back to my earlier point about just strategy seems to be changing in all these areas to the better. And we're one more opportunity to find the right place, time, and moment for a consumer conversation.
It's all about audiences, Sean. That's at the end of the day, as media owners, we deliver audiences to advertisers. And we have to stop bifurcating, to your point, in-home, out-of-home, mobile, web. Everyone's fighting for attention today. We're looking to make sure that we're delivering available audiences, context and data around those audiences, and that we can deliver clear, concise results for advertisers based on those audiences they buy. So all of us as a group have to not just in one part of the ecosystem get together and determine how we can measure what an impression is effectively. We're going to have to get creative and figure out what an impression means everywhere, because at the end of the day, the agencies and advertisers are the ones that are going to demand the results, and it's incumbent on us to come forward with a solution that allows them to buy audiences. That's all that matters.
They're absolutely correct about this. We just came through probably about a 3-4 month research project with an outside agency looking at how to articulate the audiences in our venues. And ultimately, what we found through the process is captivate influences the influential. These are people of substance. These are people that make decisions. These are people of high income. They are the people that you see in the news. You see them in other places. And that's true for all of us at some level. And we're able to start to articulate in a way that resonates, because you've got all these personas that anyone's life is at any moment. Sometimes you're a parent, sometimes you're a professional, but you can bring all that together in an environment where you can provide content and engagement and validation, and brands can take advantage of that depending on what their objectives are, whether it's top of the funnel or bottom of the funnel with the things that we offer. And let me tell you, this is not going to roll back. It's going to accelerate and go forward. You're going to see, as you did at the NBA All-Star game, digital screens where the guys are playing on it. You're going to see all kinds of places where digital screens are going to show up, and it's just going to be part of life. And how we bring that alive in the venues and the locations, I think is going to be fun to watch over the next 5 to 10 years.
So where should screens not be?
Well, you don't want them on your driver's screen when you're driving down the road, for sure. You want to be distracted unless you.
Do they still have them in public restrooms? Because I remember someone was doing that a while back.
There have been.
There was like a screen right in front of it.
Yeah, there's some locations where you'll walk in and do that. I used to be in the sports marketing business. We looked hard at it and we would talk to our brands. We just didn't find a lot of the big brands that wanted to be in that particular venue. And for various reasons, there's certain brands it's organic, it's natural, but we didn't find there to be a lot of demand for that when we were looking at it from a sports perspective.
Sarah, are you still there? Maybe not.
I think there should be screens where people want to be entertained, where they want to find something that can bring extra color or entertainment or happiness to their day.
So almost anywhere, but maybe not the doctor's office, like your OBGYN or something, right?
Well,
You'd be surprised.
I would almost add to that.
There's some big,
Your
there's lots of
OBGYN,
screens.
and I think the only person who might be able to comment about that has left. So
Well,
what
look,
makes
there's a
them-
big business in doctors' offices. There's a company
There
called
is.
Patient Point that's got a massive position in doctors' offices. And if you're a pharmaceutical brand that you're trying to sell a specialty product to a cancer patient that has a certain kind, there is no more efficient and effective way to reach that consumer and the people doing the dispensing of that product than in a doctor's office. So I think actually there's lots of really interesting applications for us as it gets segmented. But it'll still get down to content, engagement, attribution, all the things that are required for any form of media. And digital out sometimes it's thought that it doesn't have that, but with the companies that are affiliated with Barry, we all have those today, and the consideration is beginning to really come our way.
Hey, Zach,
What's
I
the
would add to
future
what
in
Blake
10 years?
said. Blake had
Oh, sorry,
mentioned
go ahead.
about Blake had mentioned about entertainment, which is very key, and look, this high quality content, as I mentioned earlier. But to be a media company, everybody in this call and others, it's not just about entertaining. It's about information. It's about relevant information, whether it's about the news, whether it's about what happened, in a sports game. The beauty of this medium is that it becomes relevant to people's lives. And the more relevant that the medium is, the more the advertising connects. So it's information, it's value, it's addressability, it's news, and it's entertainment, of course. So that's what makes a medium. And we've got a powerful medium here. Go
Sarah,
ahead,
we got
Lisa.
you back?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. We just can't see you.
Yeah, you can't see for some reason. I think it's basically crashed. So, but you can hear me. No, I think for me, I think consumers actually go around having engaging content. A consumer will go out to actually find a screen, and it is adding value to them beyond the advertising. And I think it does bring joy to bring joy to people. So it is much more than just an advertising channel. It is information. It makes them laugh. We have sporting events that are created around an out-of-home activation. So we'll have a digital out-home screen. We do that for Wimbledon. We do that for sporting events. And it becomes part of the community. And it's just, a way to make people, I look at out-of-home screens as, jogging along with a person's journey. They're not intrusive. They're adding to, that journey for them.
Okay, so before we go, if you could send yourself a text message, a time-traveling text message to yourself when you started industry, what would you tell yourself? Let's start with Mark.
What would I have sent myself when I took this job in 2013?
No, when
Is
you
that what
first
you're asking?
started in the ad industry, or maybe when you were 21.
Well, when I was 21, I was a broadcasting major, and I sent myself a text to make a list of the 10 companies that I could get an interview with, and I made a list of 10 companies I wanted to work with, and I was able to narrow that down to a little small company that was involved in radio and sports, which is what my passions were at the time. And I am surprised that I am in this industry all these years later. Really surprised. I would have never dreamed I'd be running a digital out-of-home company. So I think that's the most shocking thing, to be in that position. But the thing that's fascinating is that from when I came into the industry with sports, sponsorship, television, media, digital out-of-home is all of those things today. And so the evolution of it is really come full circle. And I'm seeing the things available in these platforms and these screens that were available when I was a young man coming out of college looking for a job.
Sean, if you could send yourself a text message in the past, what would you tell yourself?
Where to begin? I think
By
simply I
Google
would say,
Scholar.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and you can't tell everyone says stock. So I'm going, besides buying Apple stock.
There's no Marty McFly Sports Almanac play on this one. Listen more and keep up. I mean, I think I try to be a perpetual student in life, not just in business. But I think when I fell accidentally into media and marketing and advertising, it was the 3 television networks, 2 local newspapers, 5 local radio stations kind of world. And, then the internet age exploded, and the world and pace of change just continues to accelerate, as it often does at a quantum level. And none of us can keep up or be subject matter experts in every single thing all the time. And so just staying a perpetual student is critical, I think, to this industry, but particularly us as leaders. And then I guess if I could append that text message, I would just say, attach yourself to and surround yourself with good people. I think being challenged by people smarter than you, better than you, whether that means younger or older, more or less experienced, is critical. I've seen that early in my career as an individual contributor, and later in my career, focused, now on building teams and building an organization. The people side of our business can't be underestimated, especially with the pace of change. So those are probably the 2 things.
Sarah?
If I'm sending a text to myself, keep showing up. There will be more women in out of home at some point. But I think, keep showing up and not stealing from Sean, but listening. You can only truly understand something when you properly listen and understand that challenge. And my other, don't sweat the small stuff. If a problem's going to be a problem in 30 days, it's worth worrying about. If not, let it go and focus on something else.
Blake?
Buy the hair retention spray sooner would be number 1 for me. Huge mistake. You're supposed to start that stuff early,
right? And
it holds your hair in. It doesn't grow it back. So
it's like investing. You should start early.
That's right. And the gains compound on themselves. But realistically, I've worked in media since I was 25 years old. Started in news in a newsroom. It's an absolutely insane business to be in. I think I made it out because I was kind. Seriously, be nice to people and they'll reward you with kindness back. So I remind myself to be humble and be kind, and buy the hairspray.
And last but not least, we have Barry.
Yeah, and thank you for doing this, Pesach. About that age that you mentioned, I was a student, and I had a business called Post-it, where I bought about 5 staple guns and handed them out to 5 friends of mine, and I would get accounts of bookstores and concerts, and we would cover about 30 metropolitan universities and colleges throughout the New York area for advertising. And, I remember a lot of great instances of learning at that time, including one where I remember I was at St. John's University in the early days of research. I was in a portal in the stairwell trying to understand who was looking at the poster boards, how long were they dwelling, who engaged with what. And then a priest, a teacher at St. John's University, saw me staring out the window, and he looks at me, he goes, "A penny for your thoughts, son." And I don't know if you heard that. He said, "A penny for your thoughts, son." And it was kind of a moment. Oh, you're doing the sound thing. Thank you, Pesach. Is that what's happening? Okay.
Well, it's not to record. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. All right. And look, and from those days, I've been inspired by some great people. And I think I would tell myself, look for people that can inspire you. I had some great work very closely with Ted Turner as we kind of turned the minds around of advertisers and media people. I work closely with David Stern at the NBA. So I would tell myself, as the other folks did, I've always been a big believer in 80% of life is showing up. I've always been a professor of media, but always a student of media. I would tell myself to continue to be a sponge, understand the consumer, understand all media and all countries. I've worked in all countries, many big media markets, and I'm a big believer that you go to college to learn about the world, but you travel to learn about yourself. And the last thing I would say, a quote from Socrates. He says, I think it was, the only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing. So be a sponge and always learn and always inspire. So thank you for doing this.
And that's our show. A huge tip of the hat to Barry Frey for putting this together. Also Sean McCaffrey, Blake Sabatinelli, Mark Kidd, and Sarah Parks. Thank you, as always, to our sponsors at Troutman & Min for powering this show. Be sure to tune in to next week as we dive deeper into the enigma of advertising and marketing. See you on the next wave.